Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and felt a genuine sense of confusion? Wondering where the money went even though you've been working harder than ever? Do you feel like you're running on a financial treadmill, putting in miles of effort but staying exactly in the same place while everyone else seems to be moving forward? What if the reason you aren't building wealth isn't your salary, the economy, or bad luck, but rather a set of invisible anchors you're dragging behind you every single day? Most people think becoming wealthy is about one big lucky break or a massive inheritance. But the truth is much more sobering. Poverty is often the cumulative result of small, repeated decisions that have become hardwired into your daily routine. We call these poverty traps. They are the subtle, everyday habits that feel normal, even comfortable, but are secretly draining your potential and keeping you stuck in a cycle of just getting by. In this video, we aren't going to talk about skipping your morning latte. We're going deeper. We're breaking down the 3 specific psychological and behavioral habits that act as a ceiling on your net worth. If you don't identify these now, you could earn $1 million a year and still end up broke. Let's pull back the curtain on what's actually holding you back. Before we dive into the first habit, you need to understand one thing. Your habits are the architects of your future. Asterisk the math of habits. Small leaks sink big ships. A 1% error in your financial judgment doesn't hurt today, but over 10 years, it creates a gap you can never close. These habits persist because they provide immediate gratification while pushing the pain into the distant future. Are you ready to stop being your own biggest obstacle? Subscribe. Let's look at habit number 1. Habit number 1. The comparison trap, the keeping up tax. The first and perhaps most dangerous habit keeping you poor is something psychologists call social comparison bias, but you probably know it as keeping up with the Joneses. In the modern world, this habit has evolved into a digital predator. It is the subconscious need to prove to the world that you are doing well by purchasing things you don't need with money you don't have, to impress people you don't even like. We live in an era of performative wealth. Every time you open your phone, you are bombarded with a curated highlight reel of someone else's life. The new car, the designer clothes, the luxury vacation. Your brain is wired to see these as benchmarks. When you see a peer driving a brand new SUV, your internal monologue doesn't say, "I wonder what their debt-to-income ratio is." Instead, it says, "I'm working just as hard as they are. Why don't I have that?" This leads to a phenomenon known as lifestyle creep. As soon as you get a raise or a bonus, instead of that money going toward your freedom, it immediately goes toward a higher car payment or a more expensive apartment. You've convinced yourself that these aren't luxuries, they're necessities that match your new status. The mathematical reality of status. The reason this habit is so lethal to your net worth is that status assets are almost always depreciating assets. When you spend $1,000 on a designer bag or a new tech gadget just to feel relevant, that money is effectively dead. It stops working for you. Opportunity cost. That $1,000, if invested in a simple index fund with an average 7% return, would be worth nearly $8,000 in 30 years. The double loss. You aren't just losing the $1,000 today, you are losing the thousands of dollars in future wealth that money could have generated. Wealthy people understand a fundamental truth that the aspiring wealthy do not. True wealth is what you don't see. It's the money in the brokerage account, the equity in the business, and the peace of mind in the bank. Poverty, on the other hand, is often very visible. It looks like a brand new leased Mercedes parked in front of a rented apartment. Breaking the cycle. The comparison trap creates a poor mindset because it focuses entirely on outflow. You become a consumer rather than an owner. If your self-worth is tied to the brand on your chest or the year of your vehicle, you are voluntarily handing over your financial sovereignty to the opinions of strangers. To break this habit, you have to shift your perspective from "how much can I spend?" to "how much can I own?" You have to become comfortable being the poorest-looking person in the room while being the wealthiest person at the table. Until you stop letting your ego dictate your balance sheet, you will continue to trade your long-term freedom for short-term validation. You are essentially paying a status tax every single month, and it is a tax that ensures you stay exactly where you are. Habit number 2, the instant gratification trap, the present bias. The second habit keeping you stuck in a cycle of poverty is the relentless pursuit of instant gratification. In the world of behavioral economics, this is known as present bias, the human tendency to overvalue immediate rewards while significantly undervaluing long-term gains. It is the psychological glitch that makes a $50 dinner tonight feel more valuable than $500 in your retirement account 30 years from now. In our modern, hyper-connected economy, everything is designed to exploit this flaw. We live in a world of one-click ordering, buy now, pay later schemes, and algorithmic ads that know exactly what you want before you do. This environment has conditioned our brains to expect dopamine hits on demand. When you feel a spark of desire for a new pair of shoes, a new gadget, or even just a premium subscription, your brain demands the satisfaction now. The cost of convenience. The problem is that instant gratification is the most expensive way to live. When you can't wait to save up for a purchase, you end up paying the impairment tax, otherwise known as interest. The credit trap. If you put a $2,000 purchase on a credit card with a 20% interest rate and only pay the minimum, you aren't just paying for the item. You are paying for the privilege of having it today rather than tomorrow. By the time you've paid it off, that $2,000 item might have cost you $4,000 or more. The small purchase erosion. This habit doesn't always look like a massive credit card bill. It often looks like $15 on a streaming service you don't watch, $10 on a convenience store snack, or $40 on a takeout meal because you didn't feel like cooking. Individually, these choices feel insignificant. But collectively, they represent a massive leakage of capital. You are essentially bleeding your wealth out through 1,000 tiny cuts. Every time you choose the now over the later, you are making a conscious decision to keep your future self poor so your present self can be mildly entertained for 20 minutes. Ownership versus consumption. True wealth is built through delayed gratification. It is the ability to look at a pile of cash and see it not as spending power, but as seed corn. If you eat your seeds today because you're hungry for a snack, you will never have a harvest tomorrow. The wealthy view money as a tool for buying time and freedom. The poor view money as a tool for buying things and experiences. When you succumb to instant gratification, you are trading your future hours, the literal time of your life, for temporary objects. You are choosing to work an extra 5 years at a job you might hate just so you could have a slightly better phone or a slightly faster internet speed today. The dopamine reset. Breaking this habit requires a total rewiring of your reward system. You have to learn to find satisfaction in the process of building, rather than the act of consuming. You have to start valuing the invisible progress, the rising number in your savings account, the debt balance hitting zero, the first dividend check. Until you can master the impulse to spend as soon as you receive, you will remain a slave to your own desires. You will find yourself constantly waiting for the next paycheck, because you've already spent it in your mind before it even hit your bank account. To build wealth, you must move from being a reactive consumer to a proactive builder. You have to learn to say not now, so that one day you can say whatever I want. Habit number 3, the single source dependency, the fragile income trap. The third and final habit keeping you poor is the dangerous reliance on a single income stream. Most people were raised with the industrial age mindset. Go to school, get a good job, and work there for 40 years. But in the modern economy, relying on one paycheck is the financial equivalent of walking a tightrope without a safety net. It is a habit of passive dependency, where you have surrendered 100% of your financial survival to the whims of a single employer, a single industry, or a single manager. When you have only one source of income, you are constantly playing defense. You are one restructuring, one AI breakthrough, or one economic downturn away from total financial collapse. This creates a scarcity mindset. Because you are terrified of losing your only lifeline, you are less likely to take risks, less likely to negotiate for what you're worth, and more likely to tolerate a toxic environment just to keep the lights on. The math of multiplicity. Wealthy individuals don't just have more money, they have different kinds of money. They understand the concept of asymmetric risk. While the average person spends their weekends recovering from their 9 to 5, the wealthy-minded individual spends their off hours building secondary pillars. The linear trap. A job is linear. You trade 1 hour for X dollars. If you stop trading the hour, the dollars stop flowing. This is the definition of being working poor. The scalable solution. Building a side hustle, investing in dividend stocks, creating digital assets, or owning rental property creates decoupled income. This is money that flows regardless of whether you are sitting at a desk or sleeping in your bed. The invisible ceiling. By sticking to the habit of just a job, you are placing a hard cap on your lifetime earnings. There are only 24 hours in a day. Even if you become the highest paid employee in your building, you are still limited by the clock. Poverty is often maintained not by a lack of effort, but by a misallocation of effort. If you spend 100% of your energy maintaining your current life, you have 0% left to build your future life. Breaking this habit requires a shift from being an employee to being an equity seeker. You must stop viewing your salary as your wealth, and start viewing it as the venture capital you use to fund your other streams. Until you have money coming in from sources that don't require your physical presence, you will work until the day you die. You aren't just looking for more money, you are looking for resilience. When you have 3 or 4 streams of income, a job loss is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Breaking these 3 habits, the comparison trap, instant gratification, and single-source dependency, isn't about being cheap or living a life of misery. It's about buying your freedom. Every dollar you save by ignoring the Joneses, every impulse you control through delayed gratification, and every hour you invest in a second income stream is a brick in the fortress of your financial independence. You have the power to stop being a passenger in your own financial life and start being the pilot. But it starts with the choices you make today, not the plans you have for next year. If you found this breakdown helpful and you're ready to stop the habits that are draining your bank account, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We release deep dives into the psychology of money and wealth building every week to help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Don't let your habits decide your future. Take control now.